Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web. Today, I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary, Ashton, and this is our NXT review. And folks, I just, if this brand was a woman, I would get down on one knee and propose in a heartbeat. I love it that much. This episode was phenomenal because not only did we get some great matches, we got some wonderful build to the next NXT live special. Ashton, what'd you think of it, man?
You know, I don't want to say I had a problem with it, but I was honestly a little bit uncomfortable with how quickly it felt like they were rushing, like putting everything together for that card.
I will concede that was a bit off-putting as well to me, because it's not like NXT to kind of, just like an assembly line, just process all these things out. Normally it's more of a gradual build to these kinds of things. But I think what NXT is relying on, at least in this case, is a lot of carryover from the prior events and prior shows and just having everything kind of come into this crescendo, this explosion. So I think that's what they're really banking on. So I'll let it slide, this time, but I can certainly see where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it felt let me put it this way. It felt more like something that WWE would have done than something that NXT would have typically done.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know if I like that because it might be a sign of tampering.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that, but that's certainly a worthwhile point. But I guess we'll have to wait and see how, future events play out. But until then, in the present, we can focus on our heats of the night, of which I have none. What about you, Ashton?
Yeah, I mean, as uneasy as some of that kind of stuff did make me tonight, none of it was really worth calling heat of the night.
Absolutely. So with that said, let us get right into our NXT review. Ash, how do we open this one up, brother?
Well, we opened this one up with a recap of last week. We recap what happened last week with Zayn, Neville, and then obviously eventually Owens. And then as soon as the recap package is over, we get William Regal, who announces a tournament for the number one contendership for Sami Zayn's championship. And not only that, but he also announces that we would be getting a women's championship match tonight between Charlotte and Sasha Banks.
Dude, I'm a sucker for a tournament, and I am so happy that NXT has utilized this device to determine the next contender. I feel like you can never go wrong with a good tournament.
NXT loves their tournaments, man.
They do, and you know what? I never get tired of them. I really don't, because I think it's a great way
As long as they're spaced out relatively well, I agree. Because the last tournament that we had was in like the September, October area, and that was actually the number one contender tournament for the tag titles.
Right. And I think it's a testament. It's not just going one contender at a time. It shows like, hey, this is the crowded class we got, and this is how we have to sort it out.
Yep.
So definitely a big fan. But then, like, after those announcements, if I'm not mistaken, Ashton, we open up with Sami Zayn coming out.
Well, yeah, I mean, it seems like he was supposed to go against Ty Dillinger, but he just destroys Ty Dillinger right off the bat, beats the living crap out of him, and then grabs a mic and calls out Kevin Owens. And as many times as he calls out Kevin Owens doesn't answer his call. William Regal does.
William Regal does, and I gotta say, Ashton, because so many commenters will say it, and I know you and I have had discussions about it, but it's always drawn, when we talk about Sami Zayn and how he operates in NXT, and how John Cena just operates generally in the WWE, this is yet another instance where I feel like Sami Zayn is superior. Here is a guy in Kevin Owens that has been getting the best of Sami Zayn, that's been beating him up, that's been, blatantly disrespecting him. And Sami Zayn isn't coming out here smiling and dancing and all that stuff. No, he is pissed. He wants a piece of Kevin Owens, and I love it. He screams in the microphone, Owens! And like he wants to kill him, and I love it. And then Regal's looking miffed because he's like, whoa, Sammy, you're supposed to be helping me, keep this ship going, and now you're going off the rails. And Regal absolutely tells Sammy, look, I cannot give you what you want. If I give Owens a championship match because he attacked you from behind, you know what kind of precedent that sets? That's not how we establish contenders here. And yeah, I really love the dynamic here because Regal, you can't even really accuse Regal of being a heel because he made very legitimate points. So I like this.
I think that what I love most about this is that they're kind of doing the whole we don't negotiate with terrorists kind of point of view, where they're saying if you give somebody who does something negative what they want, you are reinforcing that negative action, and you don't want to do that. And that's exactly what William Regal is basically saying here. And I love that they're basically using actual like human logic to book storylines, which, I mean, when I say that, it sounds ridiculous, but it's all too rare in the world of wrestling.
It really is, and I completely agree with your sentiment, so it's certainly not ridiculous here, because I totally get where you're coming from. It's nice to see Regal saying, hey, if everybody did what Owens was doing, if I permit Owens to get what he wants this one time, it's going to be utter bedlam, and I'm not dealing with it. And personally, I don't blame Regal. I wouldn't want to deal with that crap either. Yep. He's like, no, it's not happening. And then Sammy, and I like Sammy here, because he realizes who he's talking to, but he doesn't lose his edge at the same time. He says, look, I respect you, man. I do. You mean the world to me. I really look up to you, all that stuff.
I love what he said here, too, because he even went as far as to say, Regal, as much as I would love to say I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, I have far too much respect for you to do that. I just love that one little line made it so much more of a babyface promo.
It did. He is so good, dude. And him being champion, I think, has only really made him better.
Yeah.
I've loved it. And yeah, I agree with you. That line was just fantastic. And Regal does kind of soften up, and he does concede, okay, we're not going to make it for the title. It's just going to be you versus Kevin Owens, non-title grudge match at the next live special. And I love that. Not every big-time matchup at, especially for NXT's live specials, have to revolve around the World Championship. And I love that this is actually going to be a non-title affair built solely upon, the grudge that these two share for each other. I think that's
You know what, dude? I'm going to say it. I think that because of the fact that the WWE NXT Championship is not going to be defended on this show, I want the Women's Championship to main event.
You know what? And we'll get to that later, but I would actually agree with you there. I think it's time that we really give these women the opportunity, because they have been killing it lately, but I want to reserve more of that discussion for later. Yeah. Really to conclude this segment, Regal does soften up, and we do get Zayn versus Owens for the next live special.
Yeah.
Is it after this, though, Ashton, that we have a commercial break, but then we come back with more Regal, because he makes more announcements, correct?
Yep, we come back with Regal, and he says that Sami Zayn is going to see Kevin Owens sooner than he might expect, because next week is our official contract signing for their match.
Yeah. And then I think after that
was our first match of the evening, Curtis Axel versus Finn Balor.
Yeah, you know what? Not a bad opener at all. I enjoyed this. Crowd loves Finn Balor, and I loved how commentary was really putting him over, saying that he just, he's got it all, even the entrance, getting in opponents' heads. And yeah, him and Curtis Axel had a pretty solid bout. I even liked at one point that they both got their drop kicks in. Yep. Finn Balor's, though, for my money, was a million times better.
Yeah, but, I mean, for Finn Balor, once you've seen Okada's drop kick in your face, you don't mind Curtis Axel's.
Exactly. But yeah, pretty game effort, good back and forth, but ultimately it does end with Balor getting the double stomp off the top rope to Axel, I think after
Which he actually finally named. He's calling it the coup de grace.
The coup de grace, I like that.
Yeah, because, I mean, I don't know if you're aware or not, but the coup de grace is actually a French term for, like, the killing blow in a boxing match.
Yeah, I have heard that term, and I think it fits Finn perfectly. So yeah, Finn Balor with the coup de grace, man, I love that, gets the win over Curtis Axel, so he goes to the semifinals. So there you go.
The old coup de grace.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, Balor ends up with the win here. Nobody really surprised by that. Balor is obviously the kind of guy that they're definitely going to be pushing towards the title, whereas Curtis Axel is more the kind of guy that they're going to just kind of let hang out and maybe develop a character, and maybe once he gets on a roll, they'll give him a title shot, but not right now.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I was intrigued by Curtis Axel coming to NXT because I thought, well, maybe he'll be the next kind of Tyson Kidd. That's yet to play out. But, I mean, NXT, I mean, you see the wonders that it's worked, people. I don't need to go into it. So, yeah, Finn Balor advances.
Yeah. After that, though, we get a full, just basically with one minor interruption, we get a full, like, solid 20 minutes, maybe not 20 minutes, but a solid chunk of programming dedicated to all the women. First, we get a recap of last week with Sasha pinning Charlotte, and commentary talks about how because of this, Sasha's getting the title match tonight. And then we get a Sasha Banks interview with Devin Taylor, and this I thought was great, if for no other reason because of the freaking hair flip at the end, which was just adorable.
I know, right? Just like, any more questions, Devin? Hair flip, look back. Don't care. What a bitch.
So good, though.
So wonderful. Absolutely. Yeah, Sasha just really expressing confidence that she is going to be the next NXT Women's Champion, that it's, it's her time. She's primed to win. Then after that, we do go into our championship match, correct?
Yeah. Well, then we actually did have, this was the interruption that I was talking about, a Bull Dempsey promo.
Oh, yes. Well, see, of course I forgot it was Bull Dempsey.
Yeah, pretty much. Great description.
But yeah, Bull pretty much saying, I let it slip out of my hands last time. I could have been the one to beat Corbin. I was seconds away from doing it, and I let it slip out of my hands. But next week in the NXT Championship Tournament, he said there aren't going to be there isn't going to be any counting. There isn't going to be any bright lights. All there's going to be are people chanting Bull, Bull, Bull. Yeah, not even in your fantasy booking, Dempsey.
Yeah, I think that someone needs to remind him that the only time he ever actually hears that chant is in his theme music. And
more importantly, why would you even, unless you're, again, I don't know, because JBL used to do that crap, but why would you even say that people would be chanting when you're the heel? You know, like, I don't know.
Well, it's kind of a heel tactic, though, because he's trying to make it seem like he's greater than he really is.
Right. So
I can appreciate that heel tactic.
Yeah.
But yes, up next we do get our match, Sasha Banks versus Charlotte, and man, this felt like it was going to be a classic, and then it got cut way too short. But that being said, I'm glad that we didn't get a full match here.
Yeah. Me as well. I feel like, not that I've gotten too much of Charlotte versus Sasha Banks, but we have had a bit of a, exposure recently.
Yeah.
So it was nice that they kind of put the brakes on it a little bit. And the way they did it to kind of, tie all of these stories together, I thought was really well done, because it had really degraded into a full-on brawl at one point. And these women are just fighting each other now. It's not even about, fireman's carries and all that stuff. No, we're going straight fisticuffs. And Becky Lynch comes in. She pulls Charlotte off of Sasha, gives her an uppercut, which is enough cause, of course, of the DQ. I like that Sasha, she merely shoved Becky here. I thought they were going to devolve into a full-on fight, honestly, but that didn't happen. She shoved, but then she got right on back on the attack on Charlotte. So it seemed like, okay, we're right back on the same page. Let's just put the boots to Charlotte. Then it's Bayley. Yes, Bayley emerges, and she makes the save. And Bayley probably has one of the most interesting character moments for, her particular character so far this year, when she takes Charlotte's NXT Women's Championship, and she's just gazing into it. Now, I thought, Ashton, that they were going to do that classic tactic. You know the one where it's like two baby faces, one has the title that the other one wants, and the one's just looking into it longingly like, man, I wish that was me, but then, they give it to the other face competitor. Well, Bayley's gaze really lingers here. I mean, she's just...
I honestly thought she was going to attack Charlotte with the belt.
You know what? My mind started to go to that after, again, the gaze really lingered, because I'm like, okay, she's going to give it to Charlotte and be like, this is yours, I want to earn it the right way. But then she's still staring at it. I'm like, going full on nervousness there. It's like, is a heel turn coming? And then Charlotte just comes up and is like, Bayley! And she takes the belt, and the crowd actually boos this. So, for as much as I've been critical of Bayley lately, and I'll be the first to admit that, it's nice to see that her crowd support really hasn't waned. I guess they still want her in that spot. And Bayley just kind of has this look like, I'm getting real sick of your shit. She turned Charlotte around into the belly to Bailey, the hug.
And then it's so confusing too, because at first every belly to Bailey looks like a freaking hug.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, Charlotte, we still best. And it's like, oh, you're hurting her. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It's like that temporary moment in time where you feel like everything's okay, and then she lifts her up, and you're like, is this just a really passionate hug? But then she kind of rotates the hips and slams her down on the ground, and then everything ends.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is like you immediately see Bailey, what flashes over her face is just pure regret, I think, or just not, if not even regret, just really wondering to herself like, wow, did I really just do that? Why did I just do that?
Yeah, pretty much. And dude, this was the first note that the first time that I've taken a note talking about how great something was from commentary, because commentary did an incredible job of selling how big of a deal it was that Bailey did this to Charlotte.
Oh, yeah, I thank you for pointing that out, because that is so true. Everybody's like, oh, this is so uncharacteristic of Bailey, you know, what's going on? And Jason Albert, of all people, for as much as he can grate on my nerves, is just like,
Charlotte!
Oh my God. But, you know, he's just like, well, you know, Bailey, you know, she had a heart in her edge. You know, she wants to be the NXT Women's Champion. You know, people mistake, you know, kindness for weakness, and Bailey's got to show that she is not weak. And then William Regal comes out, and this poor guy tonight, we've seen more Regal tonight doing things for the next live special and dealing with the breakdown in the locker room. He comes out, and it's like, okay, seems like you all have some unresolved issues. So, Charlotte, you are going to defend your NXT Women's Championship against, did he say Becky? No, he said, I think, Bailey's name first.
He said Bailey's name first, and the crowd popped.
Crowd popped.
And then he said Becky Lynch, and the crowd popped again. And Sasha was standing at the top of the ramp being like, come on, William Regal, you know you need to add me. Come on, you know you want to add me. And William Regal was like, and Sasha Banks.
Yeah, she was like freaking out like, what? And, oh, okay, you're adding me. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm still the center of the universe. It's okay.
Yeah.
But,
you're the center of our universe, Sasha.
I always, forever and always, I am rooting for her so much on the 11th.
Yeah.
But now, Ashton, we can return to the point you made at the beginning segment with Sami Zayn calling out Kevin Owens. I think, given all the stories that are kind of intersecting now, that are colliding, I would like to see these women get a main event spot as well. I would like to see if they can run with it. The ultimate test, you know, 4 talented women, you know, let's see what people would say.
It's worth noting that 3 of these women have put on match of the year candidate matches with each other before. Charlotte versus Bailey and Charlotte versus Sasha. They've done it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, mostly Sasha versus Charlotte, but Charlotte versus Bailey was that emotional, like, sob story almost, with Bailey losing but earning Charlotte's respect.
Exactly. And I know that was very well received by a lot of wrestling fans, that match, because of that storytelling that you alluded to. And Becky Lynch, you know, again, it's been interesting commentary on her, because I think we've given her a lot of praise, not without criticism that we both feel is deserved, but in ring she can deliver.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the one thing that we have never, ever knocked her for is her in-ring.
Exactly. So I think you put these 4 elements together, and I want to know, you know, I want to see it. I want to see what the reaction would be, because so many people love NXT and it's a beloved product. How would these 4 women, because they know the women can go, so that's already been established as well, about them actually getting that main event spot, especially over Zayn Owens, which you know would have to rub some people the wrong way, but I feel like, you know, it's really all but earned. I mean, these women have gone out and they've tore the house down, you know, time before, so why not do it again?
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens, man.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really difficult because, I mean, even though the championship isn't on the line, Zayn versus Owens, you almost have to feel like is going to be a guaranteed barn burner. But I think that the WWE is smart enough to not let that match have a conclusive finish the first time we get it.
Right.
So I think it would make the most sense for it to not go on last, because if that match goes on last and you get a DQ or a cheaty finish or a double countout or anything inconclusive, which would be the smart way to book it, I think that it would cause a major just buzzkill.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you're talking about with Zayn Owens, people are licking their chops ravenously for this match. I mean, I count myself among them. You know how much you and I have been looking forward to this feud. But you have to imagine it being a non-title affair and everything else. There's gonna be some kind of a screwy finish. So that's not how you want to close a live special, especially, when you've set the standard like NXT has. I mean, people have been eating this stuff up like candy. It's ridiculous. So I think to close with the women in a match that would be, to steal a JR term, a slobber knocker, and you'd have a definitive finish because in a fatal four-way there's no champion's advantage, nothing like that. I think you could really send a statement that NXT really is probably one of the most progressive wrestling shows, in America, especially a part of the WWE brand. And yeah, I'd love to see it.
Yeah. And this fatal four-way is going to be the most difficult match for us to pick in a long time.
It is. And really right now, it's just a matter of, for me, is Sasha finally going to win the belt that, you and I both really believe she deserves? Or is Bayley going to have that?
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. Is it going to be Sasha or Bayley? Because I highly, highly, highly doubt Charlotte's going to retain this time.
I feel like this match was meant to protect Charlotte because they know it's time for her to lose that championship, but she's not going to eat the pin here. I think Becky Lynch is actually, that's why she's here. But what's it going to be?
You know what though, dude? Here's my thing. I think it's pretty clear that the WWE isn't, or specifically NXT, but also WWE as a whole, isn't super worried about protecting Charlotte because she's already lost to Natalya in 2 minutes on TV. She's already lost to Charlotte or to Sasha in a tag team match. She's not the most well protected of champions. So I honestly think that there is a distinct possibility that whoever wins that match will do it by pinning Charlotte.
I think that's an excellent point you make, Ashton. And I wouldn't be surprised if Bayley finally pinned Charlotte and brought that story full circle. At the same time, maybe Sasha finally gets that leg up on her rival when it matters most. She finally pinned Charlotte for the championship. Again, I don't even really entertain the possibility of Becky Lynch, and maybe that'll prove to be a mistake. But, I mean, honestly, these three women have kind of dominated the championship radar. So, I'm not even going to really entertain her in the discussion right now. But who's to say? I think with every match that's going to be on this card, this is probably going to be the toughest one to predict. I completely agree. So we'll have to wait and see when it comes time for us to lock in our predictions where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So after Regal sets up that match, we get a backstage segment with Kevin Owens in the locker room. We have a new interviewer guy. I don't know what his name is, so I'm just going to call him interviewer guy. Interviewer guy asks Kevin Owens what he has to say about facing Sami Zayn at TakeOver, to which Owens responds, anything that he has to say to Zayn, he'll say it to him next week at the contract signing, and then he walks out.
I love it, man. I love it. Kevin Owens remains a douche.
So good.
He is. I think he's one of the best heels we have just in general in the WWE. He plays it close to his chest. He doesn't go on those long, drawn out, this is how I feel about this and that, and, mowing everybody down. No, he really lets his actions.
He's the anti-Triple H.
He is, and I hate to say it like that because, Hunter, I've really grown to love you lately. But, yeah, he really is the anti-Triple H. Because
we can talk about how much we love Triple H as much as we want, but at the end of the day, one of the biggest problems that he's always had in his career that still happens to this day is that he just drones on and on and on, and his promos are just way too long.
Which is a shame because a guy like him could have really benefited from being more succinct. Just saying. But that Kevin Owens has that down, you know, and that's the beautiful thing. So I'm going to take a page out of his book, and I'm just going to conclude it there. Kevin Owens is awesome here. Yep,
absolutely. Up next, we had our third match of the night. Vaudevillains come out, and their opponents, which I thought this was weird because Team Thick actually ended up getting a jobber entrance here. They didn't get an entrance at all. They just were kind of in the ring when Vaudevillains showed up. But this was a solid, quick, albeit quick, but it was a solid match.
Two things I want to note. One, I was disappointed by Team Thick's jobber entrance. I may love the Vaudevillains, but I also love Team Thick's dubstepped out theme and just like,
Yeah, you know what their new name is?
What's that?
Dubstep Cowboys.
Nice. But the second thing, and I have to say it with a broken heart, I'm just bracing myself for it now because I definitely see it coming. Commentary was alluding to, do you think there's any friction between the Vaudevillains? They lost twice to the Lucha Dragons for the NXT Tag Team titles. And then, Corey Graves, who did excellent again tonight, just so perfect in that role. So no, it was just, a flaw in their training regimen. They're going to get back on and everything else. They did lose this match here. And Aiden English ate the pin. I believe he ate the pin the last time they faced the Lucha Dragons as well. I could see Simon Gotch turning on English. And it sucks because I love this team, but I will say that if they are going to break up like I believe they are, I'm very intrigued about what Simon Gotch is going to do in singles because we already know English. We've seen him in singles so much now. Simon Gotch is really kind of the unknown here. So I will say there is a bit of intrigue as a consolation prize for me.
Yeah. It's, man, this whole thing with this randomly sudden push of Team Thick has really got me wondering whose idea this was, why this is so like spontaneous. Like I don't know. It's confusing to me. I'm not necessarily complaining. I'm just confused by it.
Well, it's jarring, right? Because you and I certainly anticipated it, I think, when you told me, like, WWE.com spotlighted Team Thick for the talents to look out for in 2015, which I thought was really cool because you and I would say countless times. I mean, guys, go back to any NXT TWitWoW where, Team Thick or Dubstep Cowboys, whatever you prefer, is featured, and we'd say, their packaging is great, Buddy Murphy is great, the music is great, so this team has everything. I would say multiple times. All the creative processes have to do is care about this team. And clearly they've started, and they've started in a big way, because keep in mind, not only are the Vaudevillains just the fresh number one contenders that they lost their opportunity, but they've only ever lost to the Lucha Dragons until tonight, where Team Thick got the victory here. Because, Vaudevillains controlled most of the match, which I really enjoyed seeing. Nice aggressive stuff, cutting the ring in half, all that stuff that I love. But then when Team Thick, got in there, and I think it was Wesley Blake that got the hot tag, didn't he, Ashton? Or was that Buddy Murphy?
Yeah, it was Blake that got the hot tag, because Murphy was working the good chunk of the beginning of the match.
Right, yeah, that I remember, because we actually got Buddy Murphy chance, which you thought was awesome, and I agreed.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Then Wesley Blake gets the hot tag, and he does, the power slam, the kip up, and it's exciting offense. But then there's this whole Simon Gotch breaks up a pin at one point. Then I think Murphy got thrown out. Yes, he did. And then English and Blake are having a tussle, and Murphy kicks English in the head.
From the outside, yeah.
From the outside.
Blake capitalizes with a really tight roll-up, and Simon Gotch was randomly just distracted by something going on in the crowd, I guess.
Well, I think he was just taking his place legally back on the apron because he thought he took care of business, so he wanted to, stay within regulation. But then he notices that English is getting pinned. He's like, oh, crap, and it's too late. So the idea that they've set this up, that Team Thick has beaten a team that's only ever lost to the NXT Tag Team Champions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. That makes me more comfortable about the trajectory that they may be going on this year, because this is jarring, this is sudden, but we dig it. So
I think the only reason we dig it, though, is because we've been fans of Team Thick for as long as we have. Like, if this would have been really any other team, although, you know what, I can't even say that, because I can't name a tag team on NXT that you and I would have been pissed about this happening to.
Yeah, I
maybe like Baron Corbin and Bull Dempsey, but even then we would have been cheering for Baron.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird how that works, because, I mean, if the mechanics were relevant and they were actually continued to be a thing, I would have been losing my mind. Shoot Nation hasn't really debuted fully yet, so couldn't have been them. Yeah, it's a weird predicament that we find ourselves in, but yeah, Team Thick, they are a great team. They have a tremendous upside. I mean, they were elated by their victory. They're hugging like, oh my God, we did it, and crowd received it pretty well. And I think commentary played it up nicely as the big event that it was. And yeah, go Team Thick, I guess.
Yeah, this was another instance where commentary did a really good job. commentary actually, throughout the match even, did a really good job of almost intentionally, unintentionally getting over the idea that the Vaudevillains just haven't been able to, I guess you could say, mentally recover from their losses to the Lucha Dragons.
Right.
Because, like, they were talking about how they started a new training program, and then, I don't remember if it was Graves or Albert that made the point that, oh, well, I mean, if they started all this new stuff, that's them acknowledging that they were doing something wrong.
Right, yeah, I'm telling you, that's what really planted, and commentary doesn't normally do this, just in general, because commentary has been in such a poor state in recent years that it really hasn't impacted me as a viewer, but I listen to those guys, and I'm thinking to myself, oh crap, they're telling me more or less that the Vaudevillains are going to break up.
Yeah.
And again, I feel like English has eaten the pin, the past 2 bouts. Gotch is going to turn on him here. Which, if that means English is going babyface, which is the other side of the coin I didn't even bother to entertain earlier, I guess that has intriguing possibilities. I'm open to it. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy that commentary was so good that I was actually actively listening to them and letting it sink in and affect me. I haven't done that in a long time. So go NXT.
Well, the sad thing is I do that every freaking time I watch a wrestling show, and that's probably why I hate commentary so much more than you.
Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, but to me, like, it affected me in a good way because that's what they're supposed to do, though.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is that, like, I take it in and I absorb it and I actually, take it for what I think it's supposed to be worth rather than what it is worth.
Right. Yeah.
Which is why I'm always the first person to complain about Raw and SmackDown commentary.
But I can't even blame you because, like I said, those mainstream shows have gotten so poor. I tune them out. NXT has been so consistently good that I can enjoy commentary again, which I wouldn't have been able to say since, I mean, I hate to sound like I'm an old man. I'm only like 22 for God's sakes, but really since my childhood youth, really, listening to Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler. So it's great to be able to say that, and figures NXT would be the brand to do it. So good job, you guys. Seriously.
Yep. Dude, Corey Graves is bringing that element.
I'm telling you, he keeps this up. I know we're only, close to February at this point, but he'll probably be my commentator of the year 2015 if he keeps this up. So
yeah, and I don't think anyone will be able to blame you if he keeps up at this pace. So
absolutely not.
Yeah, this was a really, really solid match. But then after Team Thick gets their big win, they do actually have an interview backstage. And I don't remember who the interviewer was.
It was interviewer guy, I think, again, wasn't it?
Oh, was it the same guy?
Yeah, I think it was.
Oh, well, he asks them what their thoughts were on upsetting the Vaudevillains, and they said that wasn't an upset, man. We won fair and square. We were the better team tonight. And then Buddy Murphy gets on the mic, and he's talking about how hyped they are and how excited they are and how they're on such a roll that they should challenge the Lucha Dragons for the tag team championships. And the whole time Wesley Blake is just like cheering him on like his hype man, like, yeah, come on, yeah, you know it, let's do it. And so I guess they decided to do that because later on in the night we got the announcement that the Lucha Dragons accepted, and next week we're getting a tag team championship match between these two teams, Team Thick versus the Lucha Dragons.
All the marbles, baby. It's going to be a very interesting matchup. But as far as the promo goes, I only have one note that I want to make. And I loved Buddy Murphy's response. I love the team's response really more generally, I should say. Because most babyfaces, when they get that quote-unquote upset win, they're so overwhelmed and they're like, I know, I can't believe it either. It's just so incredible to be here. No, they were totally confident the entire time. They said, no way. We were the better team that night, and we proved it. I love that. They didn't get overwhelmed by the victory. They stayed focused, and they stayed hungry. I'm telling you, man, Team Thick, I think, is about to turn up something fierce.
Yeah, it's, man, I'm just slowly kind of starting to try and to digest that Team Thick went from jobber tag team number 3 to beating the Vaudevillains to having a tag title shot.
It's crazy, this acceleration, this rise of Team Thick. I think it's just the pace of it all. Because you and I really felt like knew this was coming, but just all at once like this, I think has thrown everybody through a loop.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on though. We can't linger on that for too long.
Absolutely.
Up next, we have Tyler Breeze versus Hideo Itami in our main event of the evening. And before we actually talk about this match, I was looking in the NXT Reddit live discussion thread, and apparently at some point, either before, during, or after this match, there was a shot where you could see Marcus Louis hiding in the shadows watching Tyler Breeze.
See, now if that's the case, first of all, I missed it, so thank you for bringing that to my attention. And second of all, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was getting ready to say when we were coming upon this segment, NXT continues to surprise me, because it should be noted as well that Breeze did have a little bit of a promo, before this matchup, pretty much saying that, we're getting ready to finally have the champion that we deserve, and when Tyler Breeze does become the NXT World Champion, he's going to be able to create a world where the ugly people and the beautiful people are separate, which was great, classic Breeze. But I was going to say that I have to credit NXT because they just keep surprising me, because I really thought we were going to get a Marcus Louis run-in at one point, because the stakes were so high that I thought Marcus Louis was going to make his presence felt. No, Hideo Itami and Tyler Breeze got to go out there and have their match, and what a barn burner it was. I love this. So good. Yeah,
this match was everything you could ask for a television main event.
I know you and I have been talking about this lately, and it's just like, I hate to keep probing it, but I really do have to say definitively now, I think I've come to my conclusion. Yeah, Itami definitely looks way more comfortable in there in that ring than I think he used to. He seemed so on point in this match against Breeze, and the crowd was just eating it up. So I think Itami's definitely improved. He's definitely seen growth, and the result of that was a match like this. I mean, his kicks, dude. His freaking, I look at his kicks when he's kicking Breeze in the chest and in the face. I wince a little bit.
Yeah, if anybody ever asked me why they should watch a Hideo Itami match, I'll tell them if they enjoy watching horror movies because it makes them wince and cringe every time they see something. I mean, a Hideo Itami match is like torture porn.
It really is. I mean, this guy is just vicious, and it makes it make all that much more sense when you think back to when William Regal put Curtis Axel in the ring with Itami as punishment. This guy, and it's so great because
I don't even know if I would go as far as to say that it was punishment. It was more like a test. Like, if you survive in the ring with this guy, you're good enough to hang in NXT.
And certainly, and whether you want to classify it as a test or a punishment, I think where you and I could both agree is what's so beautiful about it, it goes against the narrative so much. Because normally, who gets fed in that kind of situation? It's the big,
giants,
hulking monster types.
It would have been Baron Corbin.
It would have been Baron Corbin.
If it was Vince booking, that would have been Baron Corbin.
Or before Baron Corbin came along, it certainly would have been a Bull Dempsey type.
Or Rusev.
Or Rusev, and the idea that it's Itami, who is so antithetical to that, conception of a performer, is just so refreshing. Oh, it's so fun to watch. And one of my favorite moves in his repertoire, he does the Tornado DDT, but along the rope, so, Breeze's throat gets hung. Breeze got the supermodel kick. Great name, by the way. That got a nice pop from the crowd.
I mean, you have sweet chin music, and you have the supermodel kick.
There you go. And just such great back and forth between both guys. And the end, I think, how did the end come about? How did Itami put him away? Oh, yeah, I remember now. Because he kicked him in the face once, and then he ran along the ropes, and he did that, like, single leg drop kick, it seemed like. Taking Breeze out for good for the 3 count.
I think, dude, I don't... Because when we first saw that, you just said that it was like a straight kick, and then it seems like every time we see the same move, you come up with a new name for it. I think that's honestly just his version of the Psycho knee kick.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I can certainly see the merit in that. But he does get the win, whatever the proper classification is, after that maneuver, and he moves on to the semifinals. So now it's him and Balor sharing that same side of the
which is ridiculous because they were literally just part of a tag team. I think maybe even as recently as last week.
And see, this is where I can kind of sympathize with your with your sentiments about NXT maybe rushing some things. I know you probably meant more in the context of just this particular live special, but to me, the idea that we may be getting Balor and Itami so soon,
Yeah.
it's a bit surprising to
It's
me.
weird. Like, I was expecting them to be a team for a while, and then one of them turns on the other guy.
Right, or at the very least, hey, even if you wanted friendly competition between those guys,
No,
maybe
I wanted a freaking turn. I wanted one of these guys to go heel.
didn't you want Itami to turn, or was that just more the community? Because I know a lot of people have talked about these two facing each other, and I think the general consensus was Itami would probably.
It could have been either one of them. If Itami would have turned heel, it would have made sense in the idea that Finn is so ridiculously over as a babyface, and it would make more sense to turn the less hot babyface. But if Balor would have turned, I mean, it's Bullet Club 2.0.
Exactly, and I think that's really the beauty of it. But obviously, that's not happening.
Right.
You're talking about a match to me that could have main evented an NXT live special, and we're gonna get it just on the regular, on the regular NXT, the TV tapings, which I guess is fine. But this presence of Marcus Louis, was very surprising. Again, I missed it. But what matters now is that Marcus Louis didn't even have a hand in this, so Tyler Breeze can't throw a fit about that. He lost cleanly to Hideo Itami. Itami advances. We're going to get Balor and Itami down the road.
Yep, absolutely. And, I mean, you say down the road, I'm thinking that's going to be in 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks' time, definitely.
Because we already know that next week we're getting Adrian Neville versus Tyson Kidd and Baron Corbin versus Bull Dempsey 2.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this tournament really fills itself out.
So then I'm thinking that the following week we'll get our match that we're already talking about, Itami versus Balor, and the winner of those two matches facing off against each other. And then we'll have the final of that tournament at the live special.
Right. It's going to be good. Like I said,
dude,
I love
it's just crazy because they just announced the live special now, and it's in 3 weeks. It is 1, 2, we have this episode next week and the following week, and then we have the live special the following week after that.
But yet, if anybody can get away with doing this kind of build and all that stuff, and still making me just absolutely want this live special more than anything else, it is NXT. Yeah, definitely.
It's just crazy to me because I was expecting this to be later in February. Last year, it was the Thursday after Elimination Chamber, and I was is this the Thursday or the Wednesday before Fastlane? Is Fastlane on the 15th?
I am looking that up right now, my friend. Actually, Fastlane is February 22nd.
See, now that's really weird to me because NXT live specials are almost always the week leading up to the pay-per-view on WWE.
Right.
So why would they put this on the 11th and not the 18th? I'm genuinely curious as to why they decided to do that.
Yeah, it really is weird because that's how you and I have always known NXT live special. I mean, you, me, and everybody else, of course. That it's that, and then a few days after, it's the actual WWE show, whatever it is that particular month, and it's just
because I mean, not to go full goofball here, but even if we talk about Puitoff, we are always joking with Abel because he is now, I think, a 2-time champion, but both of his title reigns have been 3 days because he won it on a Thursday and lost it on the Sunday following.
Right, and that's how you know how these are usually structured. But yet, this is going against the grain here, and you're talking about 11 days breathing room between that special and Fastlane.
That's just so weird. It feels unnatural.
You gotta wonder if
and really, it's weirder too because typically when they do these tapings, they do 4 weeks at a time. This time they only did 3.
Do you? Let me ask you an honest question. I mean, do you think that this could just be because WrestleMania season's around the corner and it's just that time, or do you think this could potentially be a new structure of how they do things? I mean, I don't know.
I think that something has got to be happening on the week leading up to Fastlane that they didn't want to interfere with NXT's live special. I don't know what. I have no clue. I'm not even going to try and speculate, but there's got to be something big because this is so out of the ordinary for them, and it's making the whole card feel rushed. tonight alone, by itself, we already know 2 matches that are going to happen, and we technically know a third because it'll probably be the tournament final. And we had no hint at when the next live special was even going to be before tonight. And now we know 3 matches, and it just feels like everything's getting rushed because it's a week before it should be.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, if they only have 3 weeks, better they lay out some of their biggest matches now on the first week rather than pulling like a Raw or just like a main WWE and wasting a week, not even talking about it.
That is true.
I would rather they use their full 3 weeks as best as they can, given the extraneous circumstances, than just sit on their hands and then be like, okay, 2 weeks now, let's put it in maximum overdrive. I mean, they're using their resources, so I do have to commend them for that.
Yeah, and you know what, dude? Unless the women's championship does main event this show, I'm not sure if I'm in love with the idea that the NXT title is not being defended on it.
I can forgive it because, honestly, and I'm just being honest with everybody, if the NXT Championship was on the line, I would have honestly probably picked Kevin Owens to win, believe it or not, because I just think Sami Zayn's that type of character.
See, and now that the NXT title's not on the line, I'm even more inclined to pick Owens to win.
Right. So we'll see. I mean, and dude, here's the thing too. I mean, who knows what's going to happen at that contract signing next week? Maybe new revelations will be made. Maybe things will change. We don't know. Because NXT just seems to be in a place where everything's just kind of on speed at the moment. Like everything's just in maximum overdrive, and maybe the makeup of this matchup will change. I don't know. Tag team division's looking very interesting with Team Thick and the Lucha Dragons. It's just a very weird place for NXT to be. Yeah. Not in a negative way, but just, it's weird to even talk about it because, like, how do you process it all, so.
Yeah, but I mean, we still had a great show tonight. As rushed as certain things felt, I think that NXT is doing a great job of what is, in my opinion, compensating for short notice.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that said, I mean, any other remarks about NXT?
No, I just really, really enjoyed it.
All right. On to our next segment, high spots and low shots. My low shot is going to be the Vaudevillains.
Ah, yeah, really. No kidding. Holy crap.
They were once a team that was heralded as this amazing team that's only ever lost to the Tag Team Championship. That's quite a feat for a team to have next to, of course, being undefeated. And now they've lost to Team Thick, which I'm not saying, is bottom of the barrel, but if you look at it from a booking perspective, is pretty bad. I mean, these guys have been struggling up until recently. So, I mean, the future of the Vaudevillains does not look bright at all. So they have to take my low shot.
I definitely see where you're coming from there. I think my low shot is going to be Curtis Axel, based on the fact that he's now had 2 matches on NXT against 2 guys that have only been on NXT for like 3 months, 6 months, I think, for Hideo, and he's lost both of them.
Yeah, completely agree. Totally understandable. Nothing I can add to that. I'm actually going to be a bit different with my high spot. I'm sure it'll catch you and I'm sure a few others off guard. My high spot's Becky Lynch. She didn't even have to do anything, and she's slated to get an NXT Women's Championship match. I think really what got it for her was her association with Sasha Banks, which, let's be honest, is probably why, I mean, she's even come out and said that's why she associated with Sasha to begin with, because she knows how to get to the top, where Becky Lynch wants to be, and now she's primed to potentially be the next NXT Women's Champion. So she's my high spot.
Yeah, it's really weird because she hasn't even really come out and expressed any kind of desire to win the Women's Championship. I mean, it's kind of implied, and commentary has said a couple times that that's the only reason she's kind of associating herself with Sasha Banks, but she's never explicitly expressed that that's what she wants. Like, she never said that those were her intentions.
Now, granted, when I say Becky Lynch hasn't done anything, I mean in the context of lately. We know in the grand scheme of this whole feud, she does have a submission victory over Bayley, and she has those 3 matches, even though she lost all of them, with Charlotte, that laid the groundwork for her aligning with Sasha Banks, and that's her tie to Sasha Banks, their relationship. So
and she's taken Charlotte to the limit, too.
And absolutely. So it's not like she hasn't done anything ever. She's actually a pretty significant part of this story, all things considered, when you reflect back. However, when you look in the recent context of, tonight, all she did was break up this match, cause the DQ, and then Real's like, okay, well, you all have issues, so let's just all put you in there. So Becky Lynch's plan was a success. So I think for the long con, she definitely has to be my high spot.
Yeah. I dig it. I definitely dig it. My high spot is going to be, man, I really like your high spot, but you know what? I'm going to take the easy way out here. My high spot's Team Thick. They had a huge win tonight, and they have a huge opportunity next week.
Yes, they do. And dude, honestly, to me, I don't even really consider it the easy way out. I mean, why wouldn't these guys be anybody's high spot? I mean, yeah, I just thought maybe I'd be a little different, but these guys put themselves on the map tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team that, I mean, yeah, you and I liked, and I'm sure they had their friends out there elsewhere, but, I mean, again, in a booking context, in an in-ring context of wins and losses, these guys weren't doing anything. They weren't pushing the needle. Now it's going crazy. Readings off the charts, and they're looking at an NXT Tag Team Championship opportunity next week against the Lucha Dragons, probably one of the hottest teams NXT has produced in quite some time. Can they rise to the occasion? Can they win the gold? And you know what? At the trajectory they're going, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, maybe they are the next miracle tag team to pull off those upsets. I don't know.
You know what, dude? With
week.
the borderline hotshot booking that NXT feels like it's doing right now, if Team Thick beats the Lucha Dragons next week, I'm calling it right now. Oh crap! You know what? Oh man.
What were we gonna say?
I was gonna say I think Kalisto's gonna be at the Royal Rumble, but the Rumble's before that.
Yeah, Rumble's this Sunday.
Oh man. Well then I guess it works the other way around. If Kalisto does debut at the Royal Rumble, then I guess we know that they dropped the titles.
Yeah.
Oh man, somehow this has managed to, in an indirect way, get me even more pumped for Rumble.
I know, right? Crazy. But, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But until then, Ashton, is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I just, this whole tournament thing that they're doing is great, and man, I just love NXT. Lucha Underground, like I said in our Lucha Underground review, I don't like comparing Lucha Underground to any other show, but I love comparing to NXT to every other show because NXT does pro wrestling / sports entertainment, and they are unabashed about it, whereas Lucha Underground feels like a different animal entirely. And NXT is, I mean, I don't care what promotion even. I don't care if you want to talk about your ROH, your TNA, your WWE main roster. I don't care if you want to talk about your New Japan on Friday nights. In my opinion, NXT is the best hour of television every single week.
Bar none, my brother. Bar none. And this episode was just another testament to that in a kingdom of millions. And you know what? With that said, if you don't mind, I'm going to take us home.
Yep.
This has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW. The best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. We've got some great commenters lately, and I want to know what you guys thought about this episode of NXT. What do you think about the tournament? What does your final matchup look like? What do you think about the rise of Team Thick? I mean, let's get some insight into that. I mean, that's definitely a very jarring development. Should the women main event this next live special? Do you think they have it in them to steal the show and tear the house down once again in that spot? Also, be sure to take the discussion over to Tweetop. You know, as you mentioned earlier, how we do the structure. We've got preview and predictions for all the gold, on the line for this Sunday at the Royal Rumble. Be sure to participate. It's a really fun time. And with that said, we will see you again for our preview and predictions for the Royal Rumble 2015. It's going to be a great discussion. I can't wait to have it out with Ashton about the triple threat match and, of course, the Rumble match in particular. And then, of course, the Piece de Resistance. Sunday live reactions to the Royal Rumble. I have a feeling they're going to be just as legendary as last year with how much I'm itching to see Rollins take home the gold. So you're not going to want to miss it, guys. Tune in. Peace out.